Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of Locke and Key. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, we find out it's been 2 months since the season 2 finale. First and foremost, I would wondered about the Nina thing of whether Bodhi was going to tell Kenzie or not, and I'm curious if they end up telling Tyler or not. They probably kind of felt like it probably wouldn't matter because he'd end up forgetting. Because he's going to be turning 18 soon, but I don't know if he's actually turned 18 yet. That's probably why they didn't make the time gap too big, because I think he still remembers everything. He just needed a break away from everything, and he probably was hoping while he was away, then his 18th birthday would come around, he'd end up forgetting everything. But I don't think he's turned 18 quite yet, so it's on the horizon, but maybe it was a lot I don't remember. Like, it has to be, like, fairly close. Either way. It makes sense, like, Bodhi would end up telling Kenzie, and they say, like, this wouldn't be a kept secret, but there was a part of me wondering, did they ever keep it? Like, I don't know, for storytelling purposes, I was wondering if that was going to be a thing, but it's like, no, not at all. And it actually, and even, I love the way Nina talks about it later, that it brought her kids together, like the keys and everything, and made her think she was going mad with everything that was going on, and now it explains so much. Now she knows what the kids have gone through, even Ellie, what she went through now that she knows all that went down, because Ellie has moved back to Matheson, has a key, Nina showed her the key mark, like, I know everything, and it's like, wow, like, how do you feel? And it's like, now that she knows more about magic, her and the kids are, closer than ever. Like, she was so scared that, like, they were so disconnected, and she didn't know why, because they were keeping secrets from. Now it's, like, out there in the open. And I think there's this beautiful nature of, because she's in that phase of, like, she knows the scary aspects of the keys, but it's also that wonderment that everyone, gets sucked up in, and she's enjoying that, because she's like, oh, I found this globe, like, obviously it's gotta be magical, and Kenzie's like, could just be a cool globe, Mom. She just assumed it was magical. Turns out it actually was, but we'll kind of get into that later. But I love that they're kind of out in the open talking about it, and she's so excited about it, because it is that part of you where that childlike wonderment of, like, oh, the magic of the world disappears, and now you're like, oh, as an adult being to be like, oh my god, magic is real, there's these magical keys. They, at least one of the keys they're using is this animal key that lets them turn into animals, and so her calling to the kids, knowing that, hearing her, like, one of them was a bird, one of them was a squirrel. It's just a really cute dynamic. But obviously, it's not a complete dynamic because there's no Tyler. In fact, he hasn't really reached out in the 2 months. And Nina's trying to respect him needing his space. I mean, once again, it's only been 2 months. 2 months since Jackie died. I don't remember if nearing the end there was any time skip. And if there was, it probably like a couple days, a week or so at best. Like, it wasn't a large enough. So it's still a super, super fresh wound. Even jumping ahead a little bit with Tyler, like, we see him kind of working, and one of his coworkers is like, like, it seems like she's super into him, kind of made it good. It's like, oh, let's hang out and go to the bar. And it's like, oh, why are we the only ones here? She's like, yeah, I'm kind of like, everyone has excuses for not being there, but it's like, she just wanted an alone time, and she's trying to make something happen. But after everything that went down, Tyler's not quite ready to move on because it's still such a fresh wound. Because not only did Jackie die, she died because of, one, her involvement with him. If he had never gotten her involved in all this, if he had never gotten her involved in with the keys and stuff, then maybe she'd still be alive. Two, he blames himself because the key that was supposed to save her or save everyone else that was possessed didn't work, And that was kind of like their Hail Mary, and it's like, in a way, like, getting rid of the demon, he ended up killing her, so he feels, responsible on many different fronts. Not only because he got involved with her, he ended up, if he had just let her go when she was starting to lose her memories, maybe then she wouldn't have been involved in all this, wouldn't got dragged into all of this. He also made the key that ultimately ended up killing her, and he is the one who used the key on her and killed her, so there's levels of responsibility he feels there. And I think it's probably a situation of, he probably keeps a lot of people at distance, not even just from a romantic standpoint. He probably doesn't want to draw anyone near him. It's just like, he wants that solitude until, like, because even if he forgets, he won't forget. Well, because I'm trying to remember, like, because I didn't have a chance to rewatch season 2 before, but I'm trying to remember, like, you remember certain aspects, but nothing tied to the keys themselves. Anything that him and Jackie, their relationship, had anything to do with the keys, those parts were gone from her memory. But like them being together was like, so those any part of their relationship that had the keys would be removed. So the same thing would happen with him. He has all these memories of being with Jackie with the keys. All those memories would disappear. He'd remember he'd remember of his relationship with Jackie. He'd probably think like, oh, she tragically died, and that's probably all he would remember. He wouldn't know, like, he'd have these giant blank spaces about like what actually happened. So that's where you get into that territory of just like, and you're like, Tyler's story is going to be super tragic this season. Just they continue on the cusp of all of that and continuing like what it all means for him and why he needed to get away. So you do feel bad for him, but you can see like he is severely isolating himself until probably his memories finally fade away. And it's just like dealing with all that is something he feels like he has to do on his own, and he can't be in Matheson, which I love. Like, because, I mean, look at, like, even the Savinis. It's like, wow, like, a lot changed for them. There's no Gabe, obviously. Eden was tangentially connected. There's no her anymore. I'd actually forgotten about Abby. I had actually completely forgotten about Abby, because I'm about to say, like, right, is Doug and, and her, like, God, what is it? It wasn't Zara, was it? It's something with a Z, but I'm like, I'm like, are you two the only ones left? And it's like, oh, Abby, and it's like, yeah, they're still doing stuff with Kinsey as well, but obviously no Scott. So whether or not they'll make like small appearances, like about the Logan situation, whether that's just whether any of that will get touched on this season, we'll have to wait and see. But obviously they talk a little bit of that, yeah, just to the general public who doesn't know, it's just a tragic accident, which Doug is like, oh, for tourist purposes, we shouldn't lean into it, which is like, you know, some people have that mindset about things, but still. Either way, that was kind of a, you know, nice to see, like, right, they're still making them, well, doing stuff related to, like, the splattering and stuff. But, yeah. Circling back, I brought up Ellie coming back to town. She's mainly here because Rufus wanted to be here. Obviously, she does not have a lot of fond memories of here. Yes, she was living here with everything that went down, but so much, like, aftermath, like, trailed out because of her. It's like, right, because I brought Lucas back, it set so much in motion, like, so now it's a situation of her guilt about all that, which Nina was like, that wasn't your fault. We even find out, I had a big question about, well, what about the Lucas thing? That'd probably be a little awkward around Rufus. Plus, there's going to be a lot of questions. Turns out Lucas left just to kind of have a fresh start. Everyone wants a fresh start after everything. And so Nina didn't even want to come back here, but because Rufus did, she wants to give it a chance. But, you know, she talks a little bit about her experience and on the other side of the door. For her, it's like, that time and space don't exist. It's just, she's like, it's that, like, feeling of, like, having a nightmare, but you don't remember it, but you had that feeling, and she just doesn't want to feel that feeling anymore, you know? She's probably kind of floating in a vast of, like, nothingness, and because there is no time and space, you probably lose all sense of, like, how long she was going, what she was experiencing. Like, it was just an endless nightmare she couldn't escape or wake up from. Luckily, she did escape, but, yeah. But ultimately, Bodhi ends up finding the snowflake key, and they use it on a snow globe, and they're, like, so excited about it, except for the two demons that were in there, and you're like, so how long have they been in there? They had to have been in that snow globe for a very, very long time. So, I mean, it had to be a previous, because obviously it couldn't have been Rendell and them. Those demons had to have been, because especially the garb that they're wearing, it's like, those are old garb. So they've been trapped inside of that snow globe for a very, very long time. Maybe they're probably like, they have to be just as old as Gideon, if not older. The fact is they immediately, they could sense he was there. Like, I don't know if he's naturally the head honcho in the demon world or whether he's just one of them. Because I'm assuming, like, Gabe was just, like, a foot soldier. Like, he seemed like he might have, the one that was, well, Gabe / Lucas / Dodge, that wouldn't seem like it, but it probably was just, like, it seems like the head honcho seems to be the one in Gideon, or at least, you know, we haven't really gotten into, and whether they'll really get into it. It did seem like it was like this is the hierarchy type of situation. So, sadly, Nina tried to pull the key out, hoping that it would get rid of the demons. It didn't. It just trapped Bodhi in there. Because she's not a Locke, they could just take the key from her. and they bounce. And Nina's like beating herself up about it because Bodhi's the one that's like, yeah, we should probably wait till Kinsey gets back. But like, you know, Nina was so excited. No, we could test it out just for a little bit. Come on, it's going to be a while before she gets back. So that's also this, and I think that speaks volumes that Bodhi is trying to be like, no, we should probably be responsible. They have a lot more experience with the keys, and despite Nina knowing, you know, what they've been through, it's still a wonderment. It gets the best of you. But now it's a situation of like, right, you see that there's. It was even something that Nina said to Ellie I thought was a beautiful line of the keys just want to be used, good or bad, doesn't matter to them. They just draw that out of people. Like, you can't blame yourself for using the keys. Like, the keys want to be used, and she's kind of getting that excitement too. So the keys are kind of drawing upon like her excitement and discovery of magic being real and just finding out everything that's been going on the past 2 seasons that she just doesn't remember. So she's beating herself up about it because it's like, right, Bodhi could freeze to death in there, and that's on me. He didn't even want to, you know, he wanted to kind of take things slow and at least like wait for Kinsey to get back. They track down the demons, Dorothy and Ada, and they said the name Wheeler, and I was like, does that name seem significant? Maybe it's something we'll find out later on in the season, but I'm like, it seemed familiar for some reason, and I can't place it. I'm like, that's not any relation to, like, I'm trying to remember what Josh and his daughter's last names are. I don't remember. Like, that name, that Wheeler, it just sounded familiar. It could just be like, maybe I'm thinking of like Stranger Things, because like, you know, Nancy and Mike, their last names are Wheeler. So maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe that's the reason why it sounds familiar. I don't know if it's anything in universe that, in this universe. Either way, they didn't track down the demons. In fact, the demons tracked them down because they met up with Gideon, who's like, bring me the keys. It's like, bring me more. He's like, there's more of them out there, bring them. It's like, well, we can't really take them from the locks. I don't care, get them. So they do, and it's like, they know a lot about the keys because they had experience with them. They are not aware of all the keys, but they're aware of some of the keys because it's like, oh, the one that controls plants, one that turns you into a ghost. Like, so they have some experience with ones. So when it's all said and done, Kinsey tried to trick them into using one, but it's like, oh, you can't use that one unless you know our names, and you don't have that option. So I love, and I thought was so beautiful, the moment Nina pulled out a key and it ended up being the mirror key. I was like, oh, that's beautiful, because that's the first key she had any interaction with. Like, she ended up suffering the ramifications of that. Like, she ended up going into the mirror, and that she ended up getting lost in it, and she ended up pushing one of the demons in there. And I love that her reflections kind of aging her own. She's like, yeah, you're not getting me again. I remember what went down. So I was like, the beautiful symmetry of everything coming full circle, that she would use that mirror key to take not just one, but both of the demons. I thought that was beautiful. So they're trapped there, and there's no getting out for them, unless like someone goes in there, but they'd have zero reason to. But I thought that was beautiful. And luckily, they got the snowflake key, because I was scared. I was like, oh, like, did they hand that over to Gideon? But I guess they kept it on them until they got the other keys. Probably give them all the keys all at once. But luckily, they had the snowflake key, were able to use it to get Bodhi out. It is interesting how that key works. It seems like the general premise, it seems like it teleports. The house becomes a teleporter that, when the snow globe is open, the outside, you get teleported to the inside of the Locke house in the it's interesting that there's 2 keys that kind of have that sim, because there's the doll house and now there's the snow globe. It's interesting that both kind of like operate by using like key house in that specific way. And this one, it's like, oh, it teleports you to like this pocket dimension that is the snow globe. But the moment you close the door, like that doorway between both worlds closes, and so you can't get inside the house, and you're just stuck in this snow globe. Which I was like, wasn't there something else with someone getting stuck in a snow globe? And I couldn't remember what, but I think I remember. I think it's Doom Patrol. I want to say it was, well, it was Penny at the time, but it was like Jane and Cliff. I couldn't remember Cliff's name. I kept thinking, I could remember Robot Man, but I couldn't remember Cliff's name. Either way, it just kind of made me think of that. But luckily, Bodhi's out. Everything kind of worked out in the end. But Gideon's not all too happy and ends up killing a bird that was flying nearby. And you're like, that's kind of rough, because, well, I feel like that's foreshadowing some stuff, considering like they can turn into animals and the whole thing, that you're kind of like, I don't know what that's I mean, that could be symbolic of so much, so. Because all this is happening, while this was all happening, they were trying to find their way back to a normal life. At least Bodhi felt like they were, and Kinsey was kind of happy that they were. But now they're wondering, like, right, what are we going to do? Like, do you think Eden's out there? But it's like, right, if Eden was here, we would have known that by now. So, camping's also not Eden's style. So they don't think it was, obviously it ended up being Gideon's. But I also love that, like, we got a cameo from Eden, specifically her dead body, that they went down there. I wonder how they would have reacted, because they didn't realize. They're like, oh, it's just a body of a dead girl. They don't realize, like, oh no, that's one of your fellow demons. You just didn't realize it because she's just like a dead human. It's like not knowing that, oh yeah, that the guy you're serving ended up tossing her down a well, so, and killing her, so. Either way. They're trying to get ready for Duncan's wedding, and they're trying to ask Tyler if he's going to come, but coming back for the wedding regardless, because I think he's scared that if he comes back, like, obviously everything, it's already there. There's no escaping the memories, but I think he's worried that it'll all hit him that much more. Plus, he's probably also thinking that if he goes back, there's a good chance his family might convince him to stay, and he can't let that happen, so. But Kinsey and Bodhi sent him a picture together, being like, "Hey, like, we found more treasure, and we miss you." It's also neat to see that Bodhi has. I don't know if they've ever shown that before. Bodhi having that little. Maybe they did. I'm just not remembering. But Bodhi keeping track of all the books and keys. Not books. All the objects and the respective keys to them. Like obviously adding in the snow globe and the snow globe key, kind of like an almanac for all the keys. So I thought that was and what they open and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of a neat little thing. Like I feel like I don't remember them ever showcasing that, but maybe they haven't. I'm just not remembering correctly. But there's also Nina asking Josh to come to the wedding with her. So I mean, we know his obsession with the what was the Omega door and everything, but that kind of went away last season. Still could end up being something, but we'll have to wait and see. But other than that, we do have our stinger at the end where Gideon, having both the Anywhere key and the key that they got off of Eden, he ends up holding in his hands, and that ends up being what's going to be the main through line of this season, is that the more keys he has, because he can't find the Omega door anymore, but now he doesn't have to worry about that. As long as he has the keys, the more of the Locke keys he gets. I mean, to be fair, the keys themselves are demons, so it's like adding their power to himself, and it's just like, right, the more demon, it's almost like having demons in the palm of his hand, and he's kind of drawing upon their powers. So I wonder, is it specifically him? Because like, it never happened with Gabe, because Gabe had Dodge/Gabe/Lucas had multiple keys on them at one time, and that never happened. So maybe it's specifically the one inside of Gideon that's, once again, top dog or something. Maybe top general or president or lieutenant, whatever the case may be, and they have a special power over the demons. I mean, there's a hierarchy there, so. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see as the more keys come into his possession, the more he can, like, open up Matheson to make the entirety of Matheson a Omega door without having to actually use the Omega door. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see where everything goes from here. I was looking because I was curious. I'm like, it's the final season and everything. Oh boy, only 8 episodes, which I'm like, the show's only 10 episodes, so why even? It's interesting when networks decide to do stuff like that, but maybe it's like 8 episodes is all they needed to tell the story they needed to tell. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. Either way, I'm excited to see where all this takes us. I'm excited to see how this final season ultimately plays out. I've thrown out previously during my thoughts and theories video about some thoughts about how this will all play out and maybe what the ending to the show will be. We'll ultimately have to wait and see. I'm curious to see in totality where this season ultimately ends up taking us. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.